Before a civilian can become a police officer in Connecticut, they must first be certified by the state after completing training in both a controlled environment and in the field with a training officer. I spoke with a few of the officers who are part of this process, and they emphasized that the program is continually being assessed and adjusted to meet the needs of the community. They also point out that training is not just limited to the first few months an officer is on the job. Rather, it is an ongoing process. Give me an overview of the training a police officer receives in Connecticut, and if you can, break it down as far as a timeline.
The basic training program, this is for an entry-level police officer. This is for a police officer who has no experience. When they first come into our job, we have 1,340 hours of basic training, of which 400 of those hours are dedicated to field training at their agency with a field training officer. So we have about 900 plus hours for the curriculum. The curriculum is broken down based on the job task analysis. So what we did was we did an extensive study to see what does an entry-level police officer need and what is that core description? What are we asking them to do once they leave training? And so our curriculum is broken down into 6 different areas. We have the introduction, we have law, we have practical police skills, we have human relations. So we added social justice in there and criminal investigation as well. Part of their academic training or their 6-month training also includes hands-on training. So I don't want you to think it's just theory and it's just sitting behind the classroom, because what we do is we give them the law, we give them the curriculum that they need to have the foundation, but then we also allow them to practice it in a controlled environment. So there's a practical side of it as well. When they go into their field training program, which we call FTO, that's when it really, where they're tested beyond what we can do in a controlled environment. Once they get that initial certification, every officer in the state of Connecticut that is post-certified, in order for them to recertify, they have to have 60 hours of mandatory training, and that's continuous. So an officer's certification, once they get that initial certification, is good for 3 years. They have an expiration date, but within that 3 years, the only way they can get recertified is if they complete the mandatory hours beyond basic.
So the transition from the where they are in the academy to the field training is the application of the parts that they're learning. So within regards to that, when they go to their field training officer and they're assigned to a field training officer, they're going to then go to calls. So they're going to have an assigned certified police officer with them. That certified police officer that's with them has already been through field training. So within the field training program, those training officers are taught how to properly evaluate the recruits when they come out of here. So they're going to look at from a basic standpoint of, do they understand how to operate the motor vehicle, use the lights, the radio, proper radio communication, all the way through processing of prisoners, writing of infractions. They're going to go on a domestic violence call. And what they have to do is they have to demonstrate on those daily reports whether they went to any of those calls for service. And then when they went to those calls for service, did they properly handle the call?
Are there any new components that have been added to the training in the last year?
So we'll start with basic. We added the history of policing as it relates to the civil rights movement. We've added, and Mark spoke of this, the community forum, the social justice, which added the community forum is where we actually bring members of the community in to discuss the expectations of police officers, an open discussion between recruits. This is the basic training recruits and also community activists to get that conversation going and to have a better understanding of the expectations and to have both sides of the house kind of discuss things. We've added implicit bias.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to the conversation that I didn't ask, but you think is important for people to know?
Most of the folks that I've encountered during my law enforcement career, they have a strong desire to serve their community, to engage with them, to make their communities better. And that's an important piece, is they're human beings, and in their hearts, they try and get it right. And because we're human beings, at times we do make mistakes, but the intention is there to serve.
The beauty of being around the basic training, recruits that come in every class, is you really see individuals from all walks of life that come into law enforcement, and they all walk in the doors of this academy or one of the satellite academies with a true desire to help the communities that they've been hired to serve. And some of the stuff that we're working on with the components of the community outreach is really teaching them to stay engaged in their communities, to stay engaged with the surrounding communities, and really take hold of why they went into law enforcement in the first place.
Reporting for CT News Junkie, I'm Adam Chiara.